Hi, ladies. Today for our CGI lesson, we're going to be talking about money. Um, so when we're going through and reading our problem, make sure that you're really focusing on what those quantities are and maybe how we can use them. So Mrs. Babs collected 1,003 nickels in a jar. She went to the bank to cash them in. How much money did the bank give Mrs. Babs? So Mrs. Babs is collecting 1,003 nickels. She went to the bank and cashed them in. How much money did the bank give Mrs. Babs? So our question is, how much money did the bank give Mrs. Babs? So as you're looking at this problem, you're saying, oh my goodness, there's only one quantity. I don't know what to do. So I really want you to make sure that you're focusing on what is the value of a nickel. So if we have 1,003 nickels, how much money does that represent? So we need to figure out what the value of a nickel is because that's going to be our second quantity that's going to help us to figure out the answer to this question. So I'm going to read it one more time, and then I'm going to have you go ahead and get started. So Mrs. Babs collected 1,003 nickels in a jar. She went to the bank to cash them in. How much money did the bank give Mrs. Babs? All right, so at this point, I want you to go ahead and you are going to pause the video, work through this problem on your own, making sure that you are writing out what your quantities are and what they represent. Making sure that you have a variable with your number sentence. And then as you solve, make sure that you are checking your work as you go. When you get your answer, make sure you have a unit that represents what it is that we're talking about. Our question's asking how much money. So you want to make sure that your answer is in money. And then finally, writing out a number sentence in its entirety that matches our word problem. So go ahead, you're going to pause the video and then unpause it and we'll solve it together. All right, so you should have already solved our problem about the nickels. So you'll notice that I have 1,003, and that's going to represent the total number of nickels that I collected. And then the second value is going to be the value of one nickel. So this is going to be money. So 5 cents is represented by 0.05, okay? And that's the value of one of our 1,003 nickels. So our question is, how much money does Mrs. Babs have in nickels? So we have our four operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And I want you to think, first off, we have nickels and we have money. So first of all, we know we have two different units. And when we have two different units, we automatically know that we can eliminate addition and subtraction because I cannot add or subtract two things together that are completely different. I can't take an apple and subtract an orange from it. It just doesn't work. So then the next thing I want to ask myself is, do I have my whole? Do I know how much total money I have, or do I not? Do I need to create equal parts, or am I trying to figure out how much total money I have? And when we ask ourselves that, we know that we don't have our whole and that we want our answer to get larger. So our operation we're going to be doing today is multiplication. So there's several different ways that we can multiply this problem. I'm going to start out with lattice because I think lattice is one of the easiest ways to multiply large numbers together, especially when we have all sorts of different strategies that we're going to have to be doing on top of just multiplying. So I'm going to start with my 1,003 on top, create that box. And then I don't necessarily need this first zero. I do need the zero that's behind the decimal. So I'm going to put my decimal here, a 0 and a 5. Remember, each number gets its own column and its own row. All right. So now we're going to be multiplying. 3 times 0 is 0, so both the tens place and the ones place are 0. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. And 1 times 0 is 0. So this entire row is going to be 0 because we're multiplying it by 0. Next, we have 3 times 5, which is 15. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. And then 5 times 1 is 5. We have 0 tens and 5 ones. So now we're going to add each column. So we have 5. 1 plus 0 is 1. This whole column has zeros. This whole column has 0 plus 5, which is 5, and then 0 and 0. So right now I have 5, 0, 1, 5, and I have 2 zeros before that. Within my problem, I had 2 decimal places, so I want to represent that in my answer as well, which means I need to take my decimal and move it 2 times, which would give me an answer of $50.15. So another way that I can check this is I can also do another strategy, or I can divide. I'm going to do another strategy for multiplication. We're going to do just that stacking method. So we have 1003 times, and then make sure you have your decimals. When you're multiplying decimals, you do not have to line anything up, because remember, we have 0 decimal places here, we have 2 here, so we want to make sure at the end, after we solve, we move it 2 times. All right, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to take my 5 and multiply it by each of my numbers. So 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 1 is 5. And then this bottom row, remember, we put our placeholder here, and then we're going to be multiplying each of these numbers times 0 and adding those together. 5, 1, 0, 5. And then we want to move our decimal 2 times. 1, 2, which gives me an answer of $50.15. Lastly, if we want to check our work, we're going to be doing the opposite. So we're going to be doing the opposite. When you do the opposite, you're going to start with your answer that you got, divide it by this number right here, and then hopefully you get 1003. So we're going to do kind of that standard algorithm, taking 50 and 15 hundredths, or $50.15, and dividing it by 5 hundredths. Remember, when you divide decimals, you have to make whatever number is on the outside here, that divisor, a whole number by moving your decimal. So we need to move our decimal 2 times, which means whatever we do on the outside, we do on the inside as well. 1, 2. Put your decimal in your answer, in that quotient spot. And now we're basically dividing 5 into 5,015. So 5 goes into 5 1 time. We multiply 5 times 1, which is 5. We subtract and we get 0. 5 goes into 0. Oops, bring down your 0. 5 goes into 0 0 times. 5 times 0 is 0. We subtract, bring down our 1. 5 goes into 1 0 times. 5 times 0 is 0. We subtract, we get 1. Bring down our 5. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 times 15, or 5 times 3 is 15, which gives us 0 at the end. We have no remainder, which means that these match. So our answer of $50.15 is correct. So our answer was $50.15. So that's how much money in nickels Miss Babs has. And then the number sentence that matches our story is going to be that 1,003 nickels times the value of a nickel, which is 5 cents, which gives us $50.15. All right, nice job, ladies.